The purpose of this video is to show you how you can make best use of the Snappy process workflow authoring tools. The content in this video is relevant to all Snappy workflow authors and prospective authors, whether the target platform is Salesforce or the Snappy sales system. We'll start by looking at how you might want to plan your process by setting up a series of stages. The stages can mirror the stages you use in a typical sales process, but there is also the opportunity to set up other stages which are relevant to the Snappy sales process. One example of this, which we'll explore at a later stage, is how you can use Snappy as a repository for resources or for content. In addition to providing a structure for a workflow, stages can also function as basis for evaluation. Any Snappy process can be set up with a capacity to score. And when you come to review the scoring, this can be done in the context of stages. This is especially important when dealing with typical sales processes. The problem with many sales systems is that they treat sales processes as a serial, sequential set of events. This is rarely true. Most of us will remember a time when we referred to the sales cycle. This iterative attribute of a typical opportunity journey can be evaluated by looking at the scores broken down into their staged components. So, how do you go about starting to author a Snappy sales process? My strong advice would be initially to work from the known. In other words, take one of the example processes and modify it. A good example of this would be Scotsman, and if you are interested, I would strongly recommend you take a look at the Snappy video Creating a Sophisticated Scotsman Workflow for an in-depth explanation as to how this can be done. The other thing that's a prerequisite is that the author either has or has access to the necessary knowledge to ask the right questions and to be able to profile a series of answers. To make process authoring more efficient and faster, Snappy has a number of features that are very helpful. The first of these is the concept of workflow templates. By using workflow templates, an organization can establish a series of core workflow elements which can be incorporated into any workflow. For example, there may be some specific criteria that each and every customer has to conform to in order that business can be done. Perhaps the business produces products that require export licensing, or maybe the quality policy demands that its supply partners hold certain qualifications, or there may be minimum order rules. Alternatively, certain sales best practices may have evolved. For example, a particular form of proposal may have proved especially effective in a given market sector. Another example would be a series of discovery questions, which may have been extremely useful in helping to specify a product. All of these diverse elements can be incorporated into templates, becoming reusable components. It couldn't be easier to use a template. In this example, we're going to create a sales process, and we want to bring in some aspects of account management. In this case, I simply select the relevant template and incorporate it into my workflow. Creating a new template is quite simple. You can either make one from scratch or reuse elements from an earlier template. What is really useful though is that if you have developed a workflow which has been proven to be effective, you can turn that into a template and make it the basis for future developments. Whilst we're on the topic of looking at how Snappy can make workflow editing simple, I want to point out a few more aspects of the product. The first one is that by default, Snappy workflows are private to the author, which may be a good thing whilst they're being developed. Once you install them and make them active, they're then available to any staff who need to be involved in the workflow itself. There are also options to make them available to other authors within your Snappy organization. You will notice I've said within the organization. But what happens if you're working as a consultant with a number of organizations and you have some IP which you want to resell? Snappy has an answer for that as well, as both workflows and templates can be exported into JSON intermediary files from one organization and then re-imported into another. Thus far, the focus has been on how templates and stages can help you with the efficient creation of high-quality workflows. Now we're going to move on to talk about the effective creation of the workflow itself. The mechanics for creating workflows has been covered in 2 other videos. The first deals with how you go about creating question and answer components. So if you look at this, you should be able to interject these interrogative components into your workflow. The second video majors on how you can use the field and stage rules to create efficient and relevant workflows, which are able to guide users through journeys which would otherwise be tortuous and not always relevant. In addition, features have been built into the system to allow the replication of business rules. There is another benefit that the conditional branching capability offers, and that is the ability to organize content so it only appears when it's relevant. In other words, users are guided to content dependent upon the decisions which they make. It's not a bad idea to organize your content by putting all the relevant components into one or more stages which are reserved for that purpose. This also gives you the opportunity to hide the stage, revealing it only when users have followed a specific path. You can add content by creating a specific field type, which is called publish link. For this first example, I'm going to cover a fairly common business case to make sure that the organization only has one price book. By building a link into the sales process system, companies can ensure that salespeople have access to one price book only. And because it's managed centrally, you can ensure there's only one version of the truth. For our second example, let's imagine the salesperson has gone through a discovery session and has now been guided to specific technical content. Paste the link in, check the preview option, and we can see the user experience. And for our last example, imagine this. You're the salesperson, you're with the customer, you've seen a killer video that might just close the business, but where is it? If you link it into Snappy, it's simple to find. So there you have it. By using Snappy, you can create a context-sensitive content system which can be deployed to all of your salespeople. But of course, none of this will work without careful planning and a clear understanding of the sales and account management processes. Having product knowledge and a comprehension of the campaign strategy is also essential if you're going to implement those processes. But if you've got that knowledge, then injecting it into Snappy is just that, a snap. We hope you found this short video to be useful. If you have any further questions, please get in touch with us at snappy.io.